do anything afterwards?
Do we need to be worried about you, Les?
That should have started like
Long time
back when
ago.
I was 8. No.
Okay, so a couple things. You're not wearing a metal t-shirt, and you have a big bandage on your wrist.
Yeah, so I wasn't in a mosh pit. No, I finished a 20-mile bike ride, and 2 gentlemen just happened to swerve out. One guy happened to swerve out by sheer accident. But they were so sweet and so nice.
Car or another bicycle?
Another bicycle.
Okay.
And like I've been telling everybody, the 2 gentlemen, they were like so apologetic, so sorry. And at the end, they literally, both of them stopped for a brief second. As I was getting ready to go, they were like, oh, may God bless you, God bless you. May God be with you. Both of them together. I was like, oh.
That was kind.
It was very, so at that point I was
I'll
like,
take it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have any hate, no remorse. It was just like, thank you, have a good day.
Excellent. Glad you're okay.
No, it would have been more fun if I was on my mountain bike doing 22 miles an hour down the single track. And I did a major crash, and I could come back, yeah.
Yep.
I was railing that puppy over, and oh, I kind of bent over in. Instead, I'm like,
And carry your bike down.
yeah.
You've been there. You've been there. Yeah.
There's a lot of new faces tonight. A lot of old faces tonight. I don't mean anything by that. Mean nothing at all by that. Camera's not quite right. It's okay. So why don't we just go around and introduce ourselves. And if I haven't met you before, if this is your first time here, maybe just how did you hear about us? And maybe what brings you here tonight. My name's Joseph, and I'm here tonight because I started the group.
That's a good reason.
Right?
Yep. I'm Julie, and I met Joseph through Against the Stream and followed him here.
Not nearly as creepy as it sounds.
No.
Well, hi everyone. My first time here. I'm excited. My name is Benjamin. Julie invited me here. I've been tuning into the live streams mostly, and so I'm glad I made time to be here live.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thanks for coming down.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm Dave, and like Julie, I encountered Joseph at Against the Stream and creepily followed him over here.
With you, it was.
It's verified. Yeah, I get it. I know that.
Yeah.
I'm Eric. Same thing as these guys. Follow Joseph from Against the Stream.
Roger, same thing as these guys. Against the Stream.
Les, I'm the other old face.
How long have you been coming to this group? Like, long time.
Since you started it.
Like, a long time we've been hanging out.
Yeah. Clear from Against the Stream. And then
Yeah.
up here.
Cool.
I'm Tyler. I came for the acupuncture.
Never left.
I don't remember how I found out about this group. I just magically, it was in the ether, and so here
I paid Craig to put something extra in the needles, right? Get people to just stay. I mean, it is really this place is really wonderful. And I love what it offers to the communities. And I love being connected to Craig, who was actually a Dharma Punks teacher in New York before anybody sort of moved out of that scene. So like I like the sort of continuity of the connections there. Yeah. Please.
Hey, I'm Johanna. I'm going to mix it up. I met Les last week at acupuncture, and that's how I got here.
Welcome. Yeah.
My name's Valerie, also Against the Stream, and wasn't creepy, gave a lot of distance, and then like last year I was like, oh yeah, I need a Sangha, so I'm dropping it every once in a while.
Nice to see you.
I'm Paula, and I found out from Craig. I've been meaning to come, and I'm finally here.
Thanks for coming.
I had acupuncture that finished at 7 o'clock, so I could not come today.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Robin from Against the Stream, but I had intended to be following you all this time, and but just didn't. And fortunately, Monique found it and invited me, and I'm back, and I missed you.
It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah,
too.
life happens.
Life does.
Yeah.
And it's just when Against the Stream went away, it just that way.
It was a loss for the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was for a lot of us. It was a place we went, right, and had connection to.
What was it?
So for those of you that don't know, that's an excellent question because you're like, I don't understand what's this talk of creepiness. It was a meditation group here in Los Angeles, organization. Actually had several locations across the country, and it disbanded over a year ago. And so it was difficult for a lot of people because we didn't have sort of a place. And that was sort of how this group morphed, as we had been a group there. And I asked the group, hey, do you guys want to continue on? Do you want to call it quits? What do we want to do? And people were like, no, let's keep going. And so we've kept going for a little over a year. Yeah.
Monique, so against the stream too, but it's been a really long time. So
Yeah, it's good to see you.
it's good to be here, too.
Just post on Facebook.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, I mean, it's so often that's how we interact with people, right? We just sort of like these little like intimate check-ins to their life, like oh, I know you went to Hawaii, and they're like, how do you know that, right? Because I'm creepily following you on social media. Right?
For your wife, right?
Yeah. My wife is much more interesting on social media than I am, by far. Yeah. And beautiful photography.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's so talented, and that's why I get good headshots, right? Just a great photographer. So, Well, thank you all for saying hello. We also have a live stream. We have a couple folks. Monica's watching. She usually tunes in every week, and Jason's tuning in. I think Jason's from Florida, if I'm not mistaken. Jason, if you're listening and that's true, give me a thumbs up or something. And that's something that I used to be really uncomfortable with, having a live stream, right? And so I'm kind of glad that you're here. He gave me a thumbs up, so he is from Florida. Thank you. And but I was told, like, hey, maybe offering teachings is beneficial for people that don't have access to it, or maybe like live in Studio City and get off work at like 6:45, and the idea of slogging over here is like, yeah, I could do it, but it's a lot. And so I decided to do the live stream, and I've gotten some good feedback. Like, people are like, no, I really appreciate that this is an offering to the community, and so that is happening while we're doing this. And also, any of the talks, if you ever want to tune in, the talks are freely offered, and they're archived on Facebook. I am going to switch probably to Twitch in the next whatever period of time. Thank you. The thing about that platform is that I can continue to stream for free, which is nice, but I also own the content if I do it that way, and I can post to YouTube. And I'm going to start a YouTube page, and once we get enough followers on YouTube, if we get enough followers on YouTube, then we can stream for free on YouTube as well. And then I'll continue to post to Facebook, because some people only have Facebook and they go, what is Twitch? And what the hell are you talking about? And who's our friend?
That's Pemex.
Pemex. Like the gas station? Okay.
That's where she came from.
Oh, she came from Pemex.
Yeah.
Oh, that's rad. Thank you for bringing her.
Very well versed in meditating.
I love her. I'm so glad she's here.
Yeah.
So anyway, long story longer, just wanting to switch platforms a little bit so we have some control over the content, and hopefully in a way that will still be available for people. Who knows, maybe at some point we'll invest in one of those like fancy cameras that I can stream on like multiple platforms at the same time or something like that. But for now, it's just me and my phone and y'all, and I'm glad you're here, and that's awesome. And I'm glad y'all are here too. So it's a good night to meditate. In Buddhist tradition, The night of the full moon is a particularly auspicious night to practice. Tonight is the wolf moon, which just means it's the full moon in January, right? But it's the wolf. It just sounds so much cooler. Like, it's the wolf moon. People are like, oh, wow. But the full moon is the symbol of awakening in Buddhism, which I think is a really beautiful metaphor for this practice. And oftentimes on the night of the full moon, people will do sort of extra practice. They will rededicate their practice. And I know for many of us, it's like this is the beginning of a new year. And so we'll take tonight as an opportunity to recommit to our practice and to look at what does recommitting to one's practice look like, and why is that important. And I'll talk a little bit more maybe about full moons and how we practice around that. Before I get into that, we'll sit. And typically, I don't give instructions for the meditation in this class. I don't do guided meditation, mostly because that's also I want to practice as well, and but also I was thinking about it as we were restarting this class a year ago or so, about wanting to give people the space to practice. And even if that's difficult, even if people are like, oh, silence, I think there's an important experience that happens when one encounters silence. Richard Rohr, a famous, I think he's a Jesuit, could be a Franciscan, I don't know, one of those guys, talks about the importance of silence, and that actually silence is this deep form of listening, this deep form of connecting. One of the ways that we can use this time to connect is to do a metta practice, a practice of goodwill, of kindness, which is something that I think I will probably practice with tonight. If that's new to you, and you're like, what the heck is that? I don't know what that practice is. It's really about, can I connect to a sense of kindness in this present moment? What would it be like with this breath to find some ease? Just with this breath that I'm in right now. How can I develop a felt sense of ease? It can be helpful to use a phrase, a mantra, if you want to sound spiritual. It could be let go. It could be ease. It could be I love you just the way you are. Bring in a little Mr. Rogers. Maybe just allowing a phrase of kindness to arise as you settle in. And with each breath, just bringing that to yourself. What you say is not so much as important as feeling into a felt sense, an embodied sense of kindness. And it can be helpful to place a hand someplace on yourself. Sometimes that feels nice. Sometimes at the end of my day, as I get busy, I sat in traffic, I talked to my family, right? It's hard to settle into my body. So finding an embodied sense just by offering a little supportive touch can be helpful anywhere on your body. If you're not into that and you're doing a completely different practice, that's cool too. I won't know anyway. Any questions before we start? So finding a way to sit that feels supportive. And either resting your gaze on the ground in front of you or closing your eyes. Bringing attention inward. I'll ring the bell once to begin, and then in half an hour, I'll ring it 3 times to end. practicing. Any questions about practice that's coming up for you right now before we get into our topic? Not fall asleep on a Friday night in a warm, comfortable room filled with kindness. And I was just watching my body just go, oh, this is so nice. It's like that first couple days if you go on a retreat, like you just fall asleep. Like your body's just like, oh, I can just be soft. Nothing wrong with a little poor man's enlightenment. Right? Can I care about that too? Sometimes I run into the problem when I'm working with sleepiness. I know the easiest thing to do is just open my eyes or to stand up. And it's so silly. I start to get so judgmental of myself. Like, I'm just not spiritual if I open my eyes. Right? That's not the right way to do it, which is just crap. It's just crap that I picked up somewhere. It was always really helpful to me when I would see this teacher who I really respected and really admired and had a wonderful practice, and I would see him on retreats and he'd be standing. And I go, he falls asleep too. Falls asleep too. So, yeah. So I try to, at the very minimum, if I do no other emails or anything, I try to put up the sutta that I'm going to talk about. Sutta is a Buddhist teaching. It's sort of the basis of this particular class as I take a traditional early Buddhist teaching from the Theravadan tradition, the southern school of Buddhism, and try to just unpack it a little bit. Here, 2,500 years later, and it's like, what's the relevance to a bunch of Western lay folk? Right, how is this helpful to my practice? So I put up a sutta on the Facebook page if you're interested in reading it. It's on my phone, so I can't read it, but I took some notes on it. But if you want to read it word for word, it's there. And I liked it because it's called the translation is the Bonanzas Sutta. You know, some of you who are a little older, that might bring back some childhood television memories, right? And I was like, the Bonanzas Sutta. I'm like a bonanza is like a good thing, but like not a word you use a lot anymore. It's a real bonanza. I don't remember the last time I used the word bonanza in a sentence. The Bonanza Sutta. So I was like, what does the dictionary say? Long before Google, right, there were these wonderful books called dictionaries, right? And there was like this storehouse of knowledge. And it's really the story of these words that we use. So bonanza, it has two meanings. The first one is a rich mass of ore. English is funny. O-R, O-A-R, O-R-E. O-R-E, right? A rich mass of ore. Shiny rock. Second definition, a source of great wealth and sudden luck, a spectacular windfall. So the Bonanza Sutta. I feel like Tom Jeff was getting a little playful with the translation, but I like that. What is a rich source of practice? What is a rich source of what would be a spectacular windfall for practice is kind of what the title seems to be implying. And being that it's early Buddhist suttas, that's an early Buddhist sutta, it's a list. Don't be shocked, right? It says there's 4 bonanzas of merit, 4 bonanzas of skillfulness, 4 nourishments of bliss. That's what caught my attention, really. What caught my attention, this is how I've been doing this class lately. I'll clue you in a secret. So there's this thing, if you type in random sutta generator into Google, it connects to the Access to Insight web page, and it randomly throws out a sutta. And so I've been like, I'm just going to try to take the first sutta that it throws at me and just see what's there. Right, so random sutta generator. But that was the phrase that caught me, the 4 nourishments of bliss. Man, I could use some nourishment of my bliss. I'm so happy that 2019 is in the toilet, man. That's in the rear view mirror. That was a rough year. So I want my 4 bonanzas. All right, what are they, right? Fortunately, then he follows that up with, but these are the 4, right? He tells me. Great, I don't have to know. Perfect. But just a reminder, because we've talked about this a lot, when he says the 4 bonanzas of merit, right? What are the 4 windfalls of the practice of merit? And I've talked about merit, that it's really specifically defined as the practice of generosity, the practice of what's called sila or ethics, through the 5 sort of precept practices, which are, what are the renunciations of suffering that we want to bring into our lives, sort of as formal boundaried practices. And also we develop merit by developing or cultivating our attention, cultivating our faculties, right? Developing stability of mind, noticing as experience arises, what is this? Is this pleasant? Is this unpleasant? Is it neutral? What's my relationship to it? So when he says the 4 bonanzas of merit is as I practice generosity, and by generosity I don't mean the act of giving, which is dana, but the word is kaja, which is how do I connect with other people? How do I connect with other people? Which is not only offering service to others, but also really important, how do I receive from others? I have the great Samvega practice of working with people who are sick. Samvega is a reminder that life is it's difficult at times. Right? I work with this beautiful service, this beautiful practice where I get to work with people who are in crisis, usually around illness. And oftentimes they talk about the loneliness of illness, how it changes identity, and oftentimes how we could do so much for others that we begin to lose that. And they think, well, what's my purpose? How do I have any value? But generosity is also being able to receive that connection from others. it is also an act of generosity to allow someone else to care for me. It's an act of generosity to allow myself to be seen by someone else, to allow them that opportunity to practice dana, right? Giving. So when I speak of merit practice, I think sometimes merit practice gets a little poo-pooed as not serious practice. I think Westerners may have an idea around merit practice as, some sweet old lady going to a temple and lighting a stick of incense, and they go, well, that's sweet, but maybe not the real thing, right? We have this idea, sort of synonymous idea, that real practice is meditation, right? Sitting meditation, right? Preferably in a cave in Tibet. That's real practice. But merit is actually this very rich practice of connection, of safety, of generosity, and development of the heart. Right, which is bigger than just maybe what I think of as myself, as the thinking mind. Right? Development of this relationship. And this teaching of merit has really become very interesting to me in this last year in teaching this class. This has really sort of in many ways become the theme of teaching, because merit is considered in these early Buddhist suttas as this is the way that lay people can practice in the midst of life. I don't see any orange or black or gray robes in here, right? I'm assuming that we're all lay people. Nobody's a monastic. I don't even have any, well, maybe one shaved head, but... Right, so this... It's very important that this is saying, like, if one is a lay person, how does one practice? Right? It's through this practice of the development of merit, and merit is defined very specifically. So when I practice as a lay person, what are the things that nourish me? What are the four things that, as I practice in this way, bring about a source of wealth or luck, or this deep, rich vein in my life? Any questions about merit? What that might be before I move on to what these four things are?
What's the transcription of Kaja? Just like, say I wanted to Google that. Like, what's the...
CAGA. Yeah. And there's a little straight line. Yeah. Over, I think, the first A. But it'll come up for you whether you do that or not. I discovered this. It's actually kind of like one of the reasons I got into reading suttas, was because everybody talks about dana as generosity, right? Dana, 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 dana. And usually you hear about dana in the dana talk, right? Which is where the teacher hits you up for money, right? Which always sat a little funny with me, which you'll hear my relationship with that when I give my dana talk later on. But I was looking into that, and I read in a sutta this word kaja, and I was like, what is that? Nobody ever talks about kaja. Everybody talks about dana as a practice of generosity. And dana is the sort of external practice, right? So when I give something, that is the practice of the internal development. So kaja refers more to this internal state of feeling connected that arises through my practice of dana. So it's really that's what I'm cultivating, is that sense of connection. And I didn't know how to pronounce it either. I was like, is it Kaga? That sounds weird. I don't like that. Kajagoogoo. Yeah, that works much better, right? Super new wave. So, what are the 4 bonanzas? And so, as I develop this practice of merit, what this sutta says is that I will develop confidence in the 3 jewels, which is the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And I will be endowed with virtue. You're like, okay, break that down for me. What does that mean again? Right? So we call these things the 3 jewels of Buddhism, which is it's one of the basic things that on a full moon night, one who was a practicing lay Buddhist or a monastic would take refuge in the 3 jewels. So this is also a lay practice. And this is developing confidence in the Buddha, which is sort of the ideal of the potential for my own awakening. And I mean this very seriously. One of the things that I've really come to and really want to, develop with our group here and with my own practice is this idea that I am responsible for my own practice. That there is no teacher coming to save you. There is no, like, the Mahdi, the Maitreya, right, the Messiah. Like, you're it. You're the one you've been waiting for. Right? This is this confidence that I develop as I practice. It's like, oh, what am I developing, right? It's not my relationship with this teacher unless we say that, I am the guru. If we want to channel a little Ram Dass, which I think it's good to channel a little Ram Dass right now. Right, so this develops my confidence. As I do this merit practice, this develops my own confidence in my ability to become like the light of the full moon. Right? The full moon is the center of this great Zen story where this thief breaks into a monk's meditation hut, which is a terrible place to break into because monks don't own anything except for a bowl, 2 robes, right, and some medicine. They don't even keep food in their house, right, because they're totally dependent upon the community to feed them, right? This guy breaks in, and in the middle of him breaking into this meditation hut, the monk walks in on him. And boy, is the thief embarrassed, because now he's been caught stealing nothing. And he's just got to be like, I am the worst thief ever. Right? And the monk practicing merit, he's embarrassed because he wants to be able to offer something to this thief. He wants to give him a gift, but he doesn't own anything. He's like, I have something here for you. And he just looks at his robes and he's like, this is all they have. So he disrobes and he gives him his robes. And he says, here, take these. Reminds me of Julio Diaz. I'll talk about Julio Diaz at another time. Look up Julio Diaz on Google. That's a good one on This American Life. That's a solid one. So he gives him his robe. And so the thief sort of sheepishly, takes the robes and slinks away off into the night. And the monk goes out into the night. It's a beautiful full moon night, and he begins to meditate under the full moon. And he says, poor man, I wish I could have given them the light of this moon. Right, we're looking for treasure in the wrong place. We think, if I can just find it someplace out there. And he's saying, really, it's within us. A powerful message. As I develop merit, I develop confidence in my own ability to awaken. You are the one you're waiting for. It's kind of scary, right? But also empowering at the same time. I mean, I think this is why this practice of merit is so necessary, in order for me to be able to see the truth of that. Because if I'm acting like an asshole, if I'm acting selfishly, out of tune with my heart, if I'm not developing my senses, if I'm just like this, I'm not going to be so much able to be in touch with that truth. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's why we look to the light of the full moon as this reminder. It's like, that is my own heart. The second jewel is confidence in the Dharma, the teachings. And it says actually in the sutta, verified confidence. How do we verify something? We ask Google. Right? How do we verify something? Experiment? Great. Wonderful. Yeah. We experiment and then we repeat. Right? They forget to do that a lot. Right? They all the time they're like, oh, there's this new study and it proves that coffee is bad for you. And I go, no. Repeat that study. I want to see that again. Right? It's got to be repeatable. We also, from a Buddhist lens, we have to be able to see it for ourselves. Right? We have to verify that as I develop this practice, right, that I can come to understand these teachings in myself. As I practice merit, I begin to see directly these benefits for myself, and I develop confidence, verified confidence in these practices. Right? I go, oh yeah, I know that's true from my own direct experience. Dhamma, the teachings, can only be understood through the lens of my own practice. There's a lot of people who love to debate Buddhism who've never practiced. Right? And I'm much more interested in some of the more of the philosophical practitioners. People who study the Dharma and who practice it. Because really to understand it deeply, one needs to have practice. So this is saying practice is part of merit, the development of my heart, the development of and cultivation of my faculties. Then I begin to see it myself. Right? It becomes verified. Dhamma can only be that which can be discovered over and over again as each person develops their own Buddhahood. Right? The Dhamma is this idea of, one of the translations, not my favorite, but it'll do is truth. Right? That which is true regardless. That I can verify. That is not dependent upon a set of cultural beliefs. So as I practice this merit, I also develop confidence in the Sangha. Sangha is oftentimes translated as community, which is an okay translation. But having recently gone through the disillusion of a community, I go, did not turn out to be the most reliable refuge. Human beings are flawed. oh my goodness, we're so hard to get along with. So hard to get along with, right? Talked a couple weeks ago about the question my rabbi put forth that everyone should get a rabbi. You should have one. And if you're not Jewish, like, it's awesome to have a rabbi. And he asked the question, why are people assholes? And I was interested in being an asshole myself. I'm like, I don't know why I'm like this. And he said, because fire is hot. Right? Because that's the nature of people. Right? It's the nature of people. We're difficult, and we have opinions, and we don't get along. So Sangha specifically is the community of people who, traditionally it means, actually it's a very limited, narrow definition, which is just people who have themselves come to awakening. So arhats, community of people who have come to full awakening, right? It's been expanded to mean all monastics, although I've met a lot of monastics. And it's also been expanded to mean all sort of lay people that are practicing. So what I hear in that is that as a result of the practice, what happens is that my relationships in my life, that it begins to impact the type of people that I'm in relationship with. The type of people that I'm in relationship with changes and it develops. So 14 years ago, I was a pack-a-day smoker, right? And it was really weird. At that time, it was like everybody I knew smoked, right? Everybody I hung out with, we all smoked. I was like, people smoke, right? And I stopped smoking, and now very, very few, a very small subset of people that I hang out with, and for the most part, actually none. Practically speaking, although I work with a lot of newcomers, so they tend to smoke, but in recovery, and but that changed, right? So as I developed my practice, the spiritual friendships that I developed, the community that's reflected in my life of people coming to awakening, it has an impact on that, and I think that a deeper meaning for me is as I embody practice more and more, as I come to, and I really see merit as an embodied, lived, connected practice. It's a lay practice. That as I embody that more and more, I am creating a connection, a vibration of that reflected in the community around me. It impacts other living beings around me. Right? It attracts that, or it promotes that, or maybe we're all walking into this awakening thing together. But I begin to have confidence as I practice generosity. I begin to reconnect with my compassion and my ability to love people around me, which sometimes gets a little tarnished. And the fourth bonanza of this merit practice, the fourth thing that comes forth, besides confidence in that which I take refuge in, right? Under the light of the full moon, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. I recommit to my practice. I recommit to this on this night. I also become endowed with virtue, with wisdom, which the sutta says leads to concentration, which leads to the development of my practice. So we come full circle. When I read endowed with virtue, that this becomes a part of who I am. It's not something that I have to practice in the sense of repeating, but it's something that I practice in the sense of being lived. that I become endowed with these characteristics. I was talking with a friend earlier tonight who often comes to this group and who I've sat with for a little while now. And we were talking about the practice of metta that we started off with. And the idea of metta is not just to sit and maybe develop a field of kindness through repetition in that moment, but actually to bring that felt sense of kindness embedded in my bones so that it walks in my life in each moment. That's the idea. So this idea to be endowed with something is to have it be a part of who I become, to be endowed with this practice, with the virtue of this practice. A virtue is something that sustains me, something that supports me, something that creates safety and well-being. It's not a word we use a lot anymore, virtuous. It's kind of like wisdom. It's sort of just been like, yeah, we're not so much interested in virtue and wisdom. Bring on the reality television. So as we enter this new year, we will continue to discuss how to bring about a lived practice of merit. Being together in this group, I think, is part of that. Being a Sangha, being a community. Having an opportunity to develop practice is a part of merit. In line with that, we're going to be sort of expanding some other opportunities as well. Because I really, from the beginning, I'm like, if this is not an embedded practice, I don't know if I'm that interested in it. If it's not endowed, I don't know if this is what I really want to do. Like, does the world need another Dharma teacher? Not so much, right? Like, I like doing Dharma teachings. It's enjoyable. I get to learn stuff. I get to hang out with y'all. But like, is that what we do? Is that practice? Was kind of the question that came up for me. So we'll continue to practice kaja, generosity, by engagement with our community. Each month we pick a different community organization that's local, that's benefiting our immediate community, and 40% of dana will go to that charity to support them. And then we'll continue the practice, although I probably won't do one every month. I'll probably do every other month, so it's not just me and Dave showing up for it. Dave's my rock man. I don't know what to do without you, bro. But we'll continue to have activities that also support those organizations. So like, we're probably just going to repeat the same charities from last year because I liked them last year. I still like them. Like Our House, which is a grief support group, I think in April they do like a 5K run walk. We can walk it together this year. Mm-hmm. And so like that'll be our charity in the month that they have their run walk, and we can show up for that. So I'm really like interested in like doing engaged activities that bring my mind to the practice of merit. Plus it's kind of fun, hopefully. What else did we do this year? We went to the
garden thing. I didn't go.
We did the gardening thing. That was fun.
Really
Dude, we got a lot of aggression out, tearing down vines. That was awesome.
I keep thinking about that pet farm that we went to.
We went to the pet farm, right? The rescued pet farm. Yeah. We bought like 70 bales of hay for them with our donation. Went to the food bank. I think was one of the early ones that we did, and sorted food. And we were in the freezer Yeah, they put us in the freezer.
Yeah.
And it was raining that day, but we had good vegetarian food after. I don't know if you came for the vegetarian. You didn't come. You missed that. So we're going to continue this practice. Additionally, for the continued practice, the merit practice of developing our cultivating our minds, we're going to start a dedicated practitioners group. And this will be a group that will probably, we haven't defined it so much yet, but Craig Swager, who runs the Acupuncture Center and who is an incredible Buddhist teacher, will be leading these dedicated practitioner groups with the idea of developing jhana, concentration. So not focused on vipassana, which is mindfulness meditation, but actually the development of jhana practice as a layperson. So it's kind of a significant practice. We're going to be holding online practice sessions twice a day for 45 minutes for anybody who's interested in doing that. I know, it's a lot, but I'm trying to develop a practice that is available for lay people, right? Kind of like, I love the idea of like Deepa Ma. Like Deepa Ma was this famous Indian meditation teacher, and the first person she taught was a widowed housewife with 4 kids who couldn't leave the house because she was just, caught up in daily life. And Deepa Ma is like, how do I teach her meditation? And I like this idea, like, I don't have always 10 days to go away to a beautiful place because I have a family and responsibilities to just like go and sit. Like, it's a wonderful practice, and if you can do that and you have those means, you should do that. But what if you don't? Does that mean that you're not a Buddhist? Does that mean that you can't practice? So I'm curious, how could we develop practice if I am responsible for my practice? If practice is a part of merit, how do I do that as a layperson? So we're going to have a dedicated practitioners group for anybody who can and who's interested in doing that. And so that'll meet and we'll practice together. And then when you go on retreat, it's a funny idea that my practice begins when I go on retreat. Like, there should be no not retreat. That's the idea. There should be no not retreat. It's all retreat. Right? What else is there? Really? So, when you go on retreat, one of the nice sort of respites from the intensive practice is the Dharma talk, right? At the end of the day, like they give you, and you're like, oh, I don't have to fucking focus on my breath, right? And just listen to somebody talk. It's kind of nice. It's like this, like, and it also it reinvigorates your practice, right? Oftentimes you go to the Dharma talk and you go, and I'm going to sit for 3 hours because I'm so inspired, right? I'm going to like do this hardcore practice, right? It can be important. So we'll continue with our Friday night Dharma talks. And for many people, like that's all they have room for. Like the idea of like practicing twice a day for 45 minutes, they're like, yeah, I can't do that, bro. Right? So still, how do we continue connecting to the practice in the midst of our busy lives in whatever way that we can? And then to want to tie a little bit of retreat practice in this, a couple times, maybe 3-4 times during the upcoming year, we're going to do a full moon Uposatha at-home retreat practice, which is an 8-precept practice that we would do on the night of a full moon. So we'll meet on a full moon night, and we'll practice into. So we'll probably do it on a Friday night. Maybe it's a full moon. Maybe it's not. It's not the exact date. That's okay. It's just more of a metaphor than an actual thing that has to happen, right? But it's this full moon practice of. For 24 hours, practicing very deeply within the 8 precepts. So taking on these 8 precepts. On a Friday night, we would have a talk. We would sit for a couple hours after the talk. You go home, because it's an at-home retreat. Come back in the morning, do a little bit more practice. Go practice in the evening, come back again on a Sunday morning and practice again. And the benefit of that is that you don't have to go anywhere. And it's said, we talked about these 8 precepts a little while back. If you do this once in your life, if you practice these 8 precepts for a full 24 hours, guaranteed only 7 more lives to enlightenment. I want to cover all my bases. Why not? But really the idea is could we create a practice that is still in line with this idea of renunciation, of really doing that as a deep practice, just as we do on retreat, but also do that in the context of a lived practice that's also affordable. What I notice when I go on retreats is there's a lot of young people who are still on the parental dole, and there's a lot of retired people. Most of them are white, because it's a very privileged practice. And I'm very interested in making practice not privileged and accessible. Because I'm not a monastic, and we've taken a monastic practice and tried to overlay it on a lay community. And what would it be like if we took a lay practice and practiced it as lay people engaged in our lay lives? So that's my intention for this new year that we have ahead of us. Our friend Tal, who hasn't been able to make it for a couple of weeks, but she's here tonight, asks when the dedicated practitioner group will start. That is a great question. And as soon as I decide that with Craig, I will let you know. But this year, those are the things that we want to do for this year. So soon. Also, the talks that we do for the dedicated practitioner, it's my ideal that those will also be live streamed on Twitch and then posted on the upcoming YouTube page, which I mentioned. So if you can't come to the dedicated practitioners group because you have another commitment or a job or kids or just a busy life, you could tune in for that and still participate in that. Does that make sense? So this is the vision for this group going forward as we sort of start this new year. In a lot of ways, this group was originally a response to the loss of Against the Stream, and it was a place for us to sort of hold each other as we're like, ow, right? And being together and wanting to continue that. And I think that need was met. And sort of as we're transitioning into a new phase of the group, because the group's gotten a little smaller because I don't have an inflow from a meditation center coming in, I've been thinking like, well, how do we support the practice of the people who are here, and how do we offer something to the community that might draw some people in, and how do we present it in a way that is maybe a little different than what else is offered? Because I think that if you're interested in, Dharma liberty and going on retreats, that there's lots of opportunities for that. But I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in all of us together building something and doing something that is transformational for our lives.
And where's the best place to follow the group online? Like was it Facebook or Meetup or?
Well, I have a Facebook group because I'm a lazy social media person. And I have my privacy settings really high on Facebook. But there is a Living the Suttas group where I post these talks and where we're live streaming right now, and where I post all the suttas, and I don't post a lot, maybe out once a week. Dave also started a meetup group, which is...
It's kind of a mirror image of the Facebook post, but it's just a way to...
Not be on Facebook.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so if you're not on Facebook...
So there is a link to Facebook on there, right?
So meetup.com, Living the Suttas, if you search that,
that's it, yeah.
You could find that.
Just with all the new information that you've got going on for this year, I'm sure you've thought of like starting a web page or a blog or something for So that you don't have to use Facebook?
Yeah, that's why I'm moving towards Twitch.
But that's like a new
It's another
platform?
streaming platform, and I do have an incomplete website, but I'd like this to be accessible in other ways. So I'm trying to sort of build in some accessibilities that maybe isn't so invasive
Yeah.
of one's privacy. Yeah.
Because I've been really pushing those things aside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that answer your question? Okay. Awesome. And also, if you're not on any platform whatsoever, and you're like, yeah, I don't do any of that. I do have an email list that I send things out to, and I'm happy to add you to my email list. Yeah. Although I'm also a poor emailer. But maybe like once a week, every 2 weeks. Yeah, that's about right. So maybe 2 emails a month. It's not going to fill up your inbox. Right? I don't have it on spam settings, and I don't have a personal assistant yet.
Dave.
Yeah.
Dave, yeah, Dave.
You mentioned First Fridays too. First Fridays to get together and eat.
We haven't been very good at that, but we can continue to try it.
It's been a little
First Fridays we get together and eat. We'll talk about that at the end of the month. So, the Buddha says to Ananda and I'm coming to a close now, because we're after time. The Buddha says to Ananda, who's his attendant, and I love Ananda, because Ananda doesn't get it until after the Buddha dies. Ananda's my favorite. He's like the most loyal attendant to the Buddha. He has this incredible memory. He remembers everything that the Buddha says, and he flubs it all. He's superhuman. And it's not until the Buddha dies and he can no longer rely on the Buddha and he has to start to rely on himself that he achieves awakening. And I think that that's a really apt metaphor. And so the Buddha says to Ananda, practice jhana, Ananda. He doesn't say practice vipassana. He says practice jhana, Ananda. Don't be heedless. Don't later fall into regret. This is the message to all y'all. It's my translation. Thank you for being here tonight. There is a jar over there for Donna. Our charity this month is the Los Angeles Women's Center. It's an amazing center downtown LA that provides shelter for women who've been victims of domestic violence and homelessness, which is also an act of violence. And I'll put a link up if you'd like to donate to them online. I think they're an amazing organization. We gave them some money last year, and I really love what they do, and they're a unique organization and one of the few in this country that exist. And then the rest of the dana is split. 30% goes to the center to support this beautiful nonprofit community acupuncture center, which provides such healing for people. Craig and the people who work here are truly dedicated to the well-being of this community in a really deep way. And then 30% goes to the teachers, split among the teaching. Eileen Ibarra will be back this year. She's going to continue to teach with us, as well as Craig, which I'm really excited about, that there's a core of teachers who want to do this work. So let's sit for a minute before we go out. May any merit that has been generated from our practice, our discussion, and our community tonight be offered freely for the benefit of all beings. May all of us realize that we are the ones we have been looking for. May all of us move more deeply into our hearts. May all of us learn the connection of Kaja. May all of us cultivate our hearts for the well-being of all beings in all directions. Sadhu. Thanks, everybody.